You believe you are a good person. You believe that you possess a solid, unshakable moral compass. You tell yourself that if you had been a guard at Auschwitz, you would have been the one to smuggle bread to the prisoners. You tell yourself that if you had stood in the town square during a witch hunt, you would have been the one to scream for sanity. You are lying. You are not good. You are simply untested. You have never been pushed to the edge where your morality becomes a liability and your cruelty becomes a survival mechanism. You are good because the electricity is on, because the police answer the phone, because your stomach is full, but strip away the comfort, remove the laws, give you a mask, a uniform, and permission to do harm, and you would be terrified by the monster staring back at you in the mirror. Today, we are going to dissect the most uncomfortable truth of human nature. We are going to open the door to the basement of your psyche. The Lucifer Effect. It is not a theory about them, the psychopaths, the criminals, the anomalies. It is a diagnosis of you. Most people move through life asleep. They believe that evil is a specific type of person, a DNA flaw, a bad seed. They divide the world into black and white, heroes and villains. This is a childish fantasy, and it is dangerous, because the person most capable of great evil is not the psychopath. It is the ordinary man who believes he is incapable of it, because he never sees it coming. By the end of this video, you will no longer look at the news, history, or your own neighbors the same way. We are going to dismantle the illusion of your character. We are going to expose the specific psychological triggers that can turn a loving father into a torturer in less than 72 hours. And I will show you the exact mechanism, the psychological switch, that allows this transformation to happen. But more importantly, I will teach you how to deactivate it. Because unless you understand the darkness you carry, you are not a good person. You are just a harmless one. And there is a massive difference. Stay with me, because what we are about to discuss is not just psychology. It is an exorcism of the lies you've been told about yourself. Let's begin with the mistake everyone makes, the fundamental attribution error. This is the psychological flaw that blinds you. When we see someone doing something terrible, a soldier committing a war crime, a looter smashing a window, a bully tormenting a child, we blame their disposition. We say, that is a bad person. That is a rotten apple. It makes us feel safe. It puts a wall between us, the virtuous, and them, the deviants. But Philip Zimbardo, the architect of the Stanford prison experiment, shattered this illusion. He posed a terrifying question. What happens when you put good apples in a bad barrel? Does the apple cure the barrel? No. The barrel rots the apple. In 1971, Zimbardo took normal, healthy, intelligent college students. He screened them. No criminal history, no psychological issues. Average, good boys. He flipped a coin. Heads, you're a guard. Tails, you're a prisoner. He put them in a basement. He gave the guards uniforms and sunglasses. He gave the prisoners numbers instead of names. He expected the experiment to last 2 weeks. He had to shut it down in 6 days. Why? Because the good boys had vanished. In their place were sadists, guards who forced prisoners to clean toilets with their bare hands, who stripped them naked, who put bags over their heads. And the prisoners, they didn't rebel. They broke. They became zombies. It took less than a week to erase a lifetime of moral teaching. Think about that. Decades of parents saying, be nice, share, don't hurt others, gone, evaporated, overpowered by a uniform and a situation. The terrifying lesson of the Lucifer Effect is that character is not a rock. It is a liquid. It takes the shape of the container it is poured into. If the container is a church, you act like a saint. If the container is a war zone, you act like a demon. You might be thinking, not me, I have a strong mind. Do you? Or have you just spent your entire life in safe containers? You haven't been tested. You haven't been hungry. You haven't been sleep-deprived. You haven't been told by an authority figure that hurting someone is necessary for the greater good. Until you have stood in that fire and refused to burn, you do not know who you are. You only know who you are right now. This is the first step to true power, admitting that you are capable of anything. Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who survived the Soviet gulags, wrote the most profound sentence of the 20th century. The line separating good and evil passes not through states, nor between classes, nor between political parties either, but right through every human heart. It passes through yours. And if you don't watch that line, it moves. How does it happen? How do you turn a human being into a monster? You don't need magic. You don't need brainwashing. You need 3 ingredients: anonymity, dehumanization, authority. Let's look at anonymity. In the Stanford experiment, the guards wore reflective sunglasses. Why? Because eye contact is the bridge of empathy. When I can't see your eyes and you can't see mine, the bridge collapses. I am no longer a person. I am a force. You are no longer a person. You are an object. The internet is the largest Stanford prison experiment in human history. Why do people type things on Twitter that they would never say at a dinner table? Because the screen is the reflective sunglasses. The avatar is the mask. Oscar Wilde said, "Man is least himself when he talks in his own person. Give him a mask and he will tell you the truth." The mask doesn't hide the monster. The mask liberates it. When you feel anonymous, your accountability dissolves. You enter a state called de-individuation. You are no longer John or Sarah. You are the party, the movement, the group. And groups do not have a conscience. Only individuals do. When you surrender your individuality to a crowd, you surrender your morality to the mob. Then comes dehumanization. This is the mental hack that allows you to kill without guilt. You cannot hurt a human being. It goes against your biology. We are wired for empathy. So before you hurt them, you must change what they are in your mind. You don't call them people. You call them rats, cockroaches, infidels, trash, enemies. You strip away their complexity. You reduce them to a label. Once they are a label, they are no longer human. And if they are not human, moral rules do not apply. Look at the language used in politics today. Look at the language used in corporate boardrooms. Human capital, resources, collateral damage. It is all designed to numb the sting of empathy. It is an anesthetic for the soul. And finally, the most dangerous ingredient, authority. Stanley Milgram showed us this. He told participants to shock a stranger in the next room every time they got a question wrong. The stranger screamed, begged for mercy, eventually went silent. The participants sweat. They trembled. They didn't want to do it. But there was a man in a white lab coat standing behind them, and the man didn't put a gun to their head. He didn't threaten them. He just said, "Please continue. The experiment requires that you continue." And 65% of people went all the way to 450 volts, a lethal dose. Why? Because we are trained from birth to obey the man in the coat, the teacher, the policeman, the boss. We outsource our conscience. We tell ourselves, "I am not responsible. I am just following orders. I'm just doing my job." That phrase, "I was just doing my job," has filled more graveyards than any disease in history. It is the mantra of the passive evil. The bureaucrat who signs the paper that starves a village. The engineer who ignores the safety flaw to save the company money. They aren't evil. They are obedient. And in the wrong system, obedience is a deadly sin. You don't wake up one morning and decide to be evil. It is never a cliff jump. It is a slippery slope. It happens in increments. The Lucifer Effect is a seduction. It starts with a foot in the door. Imagine you are at work. Your boss asks you to do something slightly unethical. Just a little lie on a report. You feel a twinge in your gut, but you rationalize it. It's no big deal. Everyone does it. I need this job. So you do it. You have just crossed a line. And the moment you cross it, you have to justify it to yourself to protect your ego. This is cognitive dissonance. Your brain cannot handle the conflict of, "I am a good person," and "I did a bad thing." So it rewrites the narrative. It wasn't a bad thing. It was necessary. It was actually the right thing to do. Now, your baseline has shifted. The next request is slightly worse, but you've already said yes to the first one. To say no now would be to admit you were wrong before, so you say yes again, step by step, compromise by compromise. You walk down into the abyss, and at each step you tell yourself you are still a good person. This is how corruption works. This is how affairs start. This is how atrocities happen. The guard in the prison didn't start by beating the prisoners. He started by speaking rudely to them. Then he pushed one. Then he hit one. Then he tortured one. Evil is a process. It is the accumulation of small silences. The times you didn't speak up. The times you looked away. The times you chose comfort over truth. Edmund Burke said, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." But it's worse than that. When you do nothing, you are not just a spectator. You are the soil in which the evil grows. Your silence is consent. Your passivity is permission. Ask yourself right now, where in your life are you sliding? What small lies are you telling? What small cruelties are you tolerating? You think they don't matter, but they are training your brain. They are desensitizing you. You are building the muscle memory of corruption. And when the big test comes, when the stakes are life and death, you will not rise to the occasion. You will default to your training. And if your training is compromise, you will fold. Now, we must go deeper, beyond the social psychology, into the depths of the soul. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, knew the Lucifer Effect before Zimbardo ever named it. He called it the shadow. We all have a persona, the mask we wear for the world, the polite, civilized, smiling face. But behind that mask is the shadow. Everything you deny about yourself, your aggression, your lust, your envy, your capacity for violence. You shove it down into the dark. You pretend it doesn't exist. You think that by denying your darkness, you are killing it. You are wrong. By denying it, you are feeding it. You are giving it autonomy. The shadow grows in the dark. It festers. And because you refuse to look at it, you don't recognize it when it takes over. This is why the nicest people are often the most dangerous when they snap. They have no relationship with their own aggression. They have no control over it. Jordan Peterson famously said, "You should be a monster." And then he added, "And then you should learn how to control it." This is the paradox of goodness. A rabbit is not virtuous because it doesn't eat the wolf. A rabbit is harmless. It has no choice. Virtue requires choice. Virtue is being a monster, having the claws, having the teeth, having the capacity for absolute destruction, and choosing to keep them sheathed. That is strength. That is morality. If you are good simply because you are weak, you are not good. You are just waiting for a strong man to give you a weapon, and the moment you get that power, your repressed shadow will erupt. We see this in the weak man who gets a promotion and becomes a tyrant. We see this in the quiet neighbor who joins a mob and burns down a building. They were never peaceful. They were just powerless. To escape the Lucifer effect, you must do the terrifying work of shadow integration. You must look in the mirror and see the Nazi guard. You must admit, I could do that. I want to do that. There is a part of me that enjoys power, that enjoys inflicting pain. It is horrifying to admit. It makes you sick to your stomach. Good. That nausea is your safety mechanism. Once you see the capacity for evil within you, you can stand guard against it. You can watch it. You can recognize the trigger when it happens. Ah, there is my shadow. There is my desire to hurt him because he insulted me. I see it. I acknowledge it. And I choose not to act on it. This is what Jung meant by wholeness. You cannot be holy unless you are whole. And you cannot be whole if you deny half of your existence. So, is it hopeless? Are we all just sleeper agents waiting for the right trigger to turn us into monsters? No. Zimbardo didn't just study evil. He studied heroism. He found that just as there is a slippery slope to evil, there is a path to heroism. But it requires a different kind of thinking. It requires what he calls the heroic imagination. Most people think heroes are special. Superman, Wonder Woman, chosen ones. This is another lie that keeps you passive. If heroes are special, then you don't have to be one. You're just normal. But real heroes are not special. They are ordinary people who made a split-second decision to act when everyone else froze. They are the outliers, the deviants. To resist the Lucifer effect, you must be willing to be a social deviant. You must be willing to be the weirdo, the one who ruins the dinner party by pointing out the elephant in the room, the one who refuses to laugh at the cruel joke, the one who says no when the group says yes. This is incredibly difficult because we are wired to belong. Evolution taught us that if you are kicked out of the tribe, you die. So, social rejection feels like death. That is why it is so hard to stand up against a group. Your body screams danger. Your cortisol spikes. You sweat. But you must learn to override that instinct. You must train for heroism the way you train for a sport. You don't wait for the burning building to decide if you are brave. You practice in the small moments, the daily heroism. When you hear gossip, do you join in or do you kill the conversation? When you see someone being bullied online, do you scroll past or do you say something? When you make a mistake, do you cover it up or do you own it immediately? These are the reps. You are building the muscle of non-conformity. You are getting used to the discomfort of standing alone, and you need to understand the concept of the pause. The Lucifer effect relies on speed. It relies on you reacting without thinking. The system pushes you. Do it now. Sign here. Shoot him. Hurry. Evil thrives in urgency. The hero pauses. He steps back from the situation. He engages his frontal cortex. He asks, what is actually happening here? Why am I doing this? Does this align with who I claim to be? That 3-second pause is the difference between a war crime and a moral stand, between a regret that haunts you forever and a legacy of integrity. You must become situational aware. Recognize the barrel you are in. Ask yourself, am I wearing a mask? Am I anonymous? Am I blindly obeying authority? Am I dehumanizing the person in front of me? If the answer is yes, you are in the danger zone, and you must get out, or you must break the system. There is a flip side to the banality of evil. Hannah Arendt coined the banality of evil to describe the Nazis, how boring, efficient, and normal they were. But there is also the banality of heroism. It means that heroism doesn't look like a movie. It looks awkward. It looks lonely. It looks like trouble. When you refuse to conform, people won't applaud you. They will hate you, because your integrity acts as a mirror to their corruption. When you stand up, you make them look bad for sitting down, so they will attack you. They will call you self-righteous, difficult, crazy. They will try to cast you out. This is the price. You have to decide if you are willing to pay it. Most people would rather be liked than be good. They would rather be safe in the herd than free in the wilderness. But you, if you are listening to this, you are not most people. You are here because you sense that the herd is heading off a cliff. You are here because you want to master your mind. The ultimate defense against the Lucifer effect is to define yourself, to know your values so clearly that no situation can override them. If you don't know what you stand for, you will fall for anything. You need a code, not a vague idea of being nice. A rigid, unshakable code of honor. I do not lie. I do not harm the defenseless. I do not follow unjust orders. Write it down. Memorize it. Burn it into your brain. Because when the pressure comes, and it will come, you won't have time to think. You will only have your code. Look at history. The people who saved Jews in Nazi Germany, the people who hid Tutsis in Rwanda, they weren't richer, they weren't more educated, they just had a line they refused to cross. They said, this is who I am, and I will not violate my soul for your system. They preserved their humanity in hell, and because of them, we know it is possible. You have that potential, but you also have the potential to be the guard, the torturer, the bystander. Never forget that. Hold both truths in your hands. I am a monster, and I am a hero. The battle between them is fought every single day, in every email, in every interaction. in every choice. It is not fought on a battlefield, it is fought in the silence of your own skull. So, why do good people turn evil? Because they don't know they can. Because they are sleepwalking through a minefield. Because they trust the system more than they trust their own conscience. But now, you are awake. You have the knowledge that Zimbardo discovered in that basement. You have the map of the minefield. You know that the uniform is a lie. You know that the authority is fallible. You know that the shadow is waiting. This knowledge is a burden. It means you no longer have the excuse of ignorance. If you act cruelly now, it is a choice. If you follow the mob now, it is a choice. But it is also a liberation, because it means you are no longer a puppet of your environment. You are the architect of your character. The next time you feel the pull of the crowd, the next time you feel the seduction of power, the next time you feel the heat of anger rising against an enemy, remember the basement, remember the mask, and take it off. Step out of the line. Be the glitch in the matrix of evil. Because one person, one single person refusing to conform, can break the spell for everyone else. Courage is contagious, but so is cowardice. Which one will you spread? The world is getting darker. The systems of control are getting smarter. The pressure to conform is getting heavier. We need monsters who have learned how to be angels. We need you. Not the nice you. The dangerous, integrated, aware you. The one who knows the darkness and chooses the light anyway. If this opened your eyes, understand this is only the surface. There are videos I cannot upload for the public. There are aspects of manipulation, power dynamics, and human nature that are too raw for the algorithm. They are suppressed. They are demonetized. They are hidden. Those truths exist behind the join button. Subscribe if you haven't. But if you want what is hidden, click the join button and step into the architect level. You will unlock exclusive, uncensored videos that dive into the deepest, most forbidden parts of the human psyche. Most won't. They prefer the lie. That's the point. But I'll see you on the inside.